Back for another edition of In the Huddle. Carl Dukes, put them up, along with my man Brian Baldinger. Guys, check out Baldy's breakdowns. We got a big weekend headed towards the NFL weekend this weekend. We got Saturday games. All right, we're recording this on Thursday, guys, so we'll talk about tonight's Thursday night game because the Chargers are without Justin Herbert. But we've got Saturday games. We've got Sunday games. We got a great Monday night matchup. I think that's going to be great. So as we start, though, Baldy, let's talk about the Chargers because we've been talking about this team all year. They're 5-8. It's been underwhelming. They are going into Vegas to take on the Raiders. This Vegas team certainly took a turn for me. I don't know what you're seeing. You know, they're playing differently, or at least they're playing harder. That's the way I feel. And I think this is going to be an interesting game because I feel like, Baldy, if Brandon Staley loses this game, I think this could be the one. I think this could be the game where they go, we're on it. You know what? Our quarterback's hurt. It's been a disappointing season. But tell me what you think about this game tonight on Thursday Night Football.
Well, I just got done, studying last week's Charger game against the Broncos, and the Broncos just manhandled them. I mean, just took them apart, but not physically necessarily. They beat them at all their protections. Vance Joseph just outcoached Kellen Moore. They were beat on Wednesday, Carl. It's like they sacked him 6 times. They had 9 tackles for loss. I mean, they got a defensive touchdown from Jaquan McMillan. They didn't know where the blitzes were coming from, and they didn't know how to handle it. That's why Justin Herbert went out, got hurt. And so the one thing I see from the Raiders, and you mentioned it, Carl, is, I used to just do these breakdowns. It would just be Max Crosby every week. But the Tyree Wilson played really well last week. He played really well. He played inside, played next to Max. Kuntz is playing really good. Marcus Epps is still the Eagles' best safety. He's playing great, in the secondary. They're playing look, that was a good performance against Minnesota. They should have won the game. They just couldn't make a play. But honestly, the Raiders have come a long, long ways. Now, they have issues offensively. The quarterback, look, Minnesota, they play great defense, and they just could not make a play. But I feel like this is the Raiders game. I mean, I don't know if nobody's really eliminated in the AFC, but I feel like the Raiders on a short week defensively can give Easton Stick and his Chargers a lot of problems.
Aiden O'Connell is going to remain the quarterback with the Raiders. What are you seeing there, Baldy?
I'm not going to say he's limited. I mean, Minnesota made it tough on him. He just didn't know where to go. I mean, he wanted to go to Devontae. Great. Well, they had so many different ways to take Devontae out last week. And so I think he knows what to do. If they can't run the ball better right now, they're just going to continue to struggle. And, Josh Jacobs, they're trying to get him some reps, but it's hard if it's 2nd and 9, if they're going to stay with the run. And then teams have figured out, okay, it's Devontae, Jacoby Myers, they kind of know which guys to take away and how to take away them.
Let's jump to the Saturday games, guys, because we think that all of these games are going to matter. And when you talk about the standings, Minnesota at Cincinnati, 1 o'clock. 4:30, it's Pittsburgh at Indy. All 4 of those teams are 7-6 as we speak right now. Yeah. And then you've got Denver at Detroit, which Baldy's just telling you about Denver right now. We'll get more into it. And Detroit right now, they're kind of wobbling. So Minnesota, Cincinnati. We know Joshua Dobbs is not starting. And I think O'Connell's just searching for something, right? He's just trying to find something. Meanwhile, Baldy, this Jake guy is pretty damn good in Cincinnati. Jake Browning, he looks good.
I found out something this week I thought was fascinating, Carl. When Jake Browning has been there in Cincinnati for 3 years, never played. All right, Joe Burrow, fine. But what he did is, because he was basically a third-team quarterback, he sat in the defensive meeting rooms. And he really studied what Lou Anarumo was teaching his defense. And he came away thinking, these defenses don't have it all figured out. We think on the offensive side we do. And in fact, he told Joe Burrow, since you're not playing, you're sitting, do the same thing. Learn it from the defensive side, how they're game planning, what they're taking away, how they pressure the quarterback. And I think he learned a lot doing that. I've never – I'm sure other guys have done that, Carl. I just never heard that before. And I thought, that's a great way to learn the game. And obviously he's completing over 80% of his passes. This is going to be a fascinating game, Carl. I think Jake Browning can be the real deal. We'll find out. But what Brian Flores is doing in Minnesota is amazing. It's just amazing. They literally game plan as well as any defense in this league right now. And this Ivan Pace and Josh Metellus, like these kids are from Ivan Pace, a rookie free agent out of Cincinnati. He's 5'10", he's 230 pounds. He's too small, he's too slow. Made every single tackle, interception to close out the game last week. This is going to be a fascinating game. I think Cincinnati can win it because I think they've got more offense than what Minnesota has. And I think your point is well taken. I think Kevin O'Connell's like, look, I've tried all these different guys. Nobody's giving me anything. Let's go to Nick Mullins. Maybe he'll be the spark we need right now.
All right, so that's the 1 o'clock game Saturday, guys. We get game Saturday and Sunday. It's in the huddle. Carl Dukes, Brian Baldinger, Jason Lockon, are part of this podcast as well. Watch us at In the Huddle Pod. The 4 o'clock game, it's Pittsburgh at Indy. I got to tell you, Ben Roethlisberger had his comments this week about Pittsburgh and talking about the culture and all of that. Listen, as long as Tomlin's there, I'm fine, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But this is interesting because I didn't expect the Colts to be here. I just didn't. And the Steelers in that division, we know that might be a division, the North, that might have 3 teams in the playoffs. We don't know how this is going to shake out.
Sure.
So I'm looking at Baltimore and I'm going, the one thing that's impressing me right now with them, and Baldy, tell me what you think, is they are finding ways. I've been impressed, offensively, that they've been able to score and find ways to stay in these games. And I didn't think that would be the case. I just didn't. So Steelers, by the way, on the road. Indy's a favorite in this game by 1.5 points, 2 points, basically, to win this game on Saturday. What's going on here, man?
Well, Pittsburgh's, Mitch Trubisky was not good last week, Carl. He just wasn't. He missed way too many. Like the reads, like he's not going where. Like the quarterback's job is to find the open receivers, and he struggled in Chicago to do that. He struggled last week. They had plenty of chances, all the way down to the very end of the game, to make the right read and throw it to the open receiver, and he struggles to process that. And like you could say, he's an athlete and all this stuff. The quarterback's got to throw the ball to the open receivers. That's just their job, and I think Indy right now, like they did not play great last week, but defensively, their defensive line is very active. They pressure the quarterbacks well. And offensively, Minshew gives you he's played well. I mean, you can't ask for anything more from a backup quarterback that got pressed into duty week 3 to finish out the season. He's giving them enough. I think Indy right here, I think this is a tough spot for Pittsburgh right now, the way they're playing.
I'm with you. Before last week when they lost to the Bengals, you're talking about a 4-game run where the Colts beat the Panthers, the Patriots. I get it. They had the bye week, but they came out of the bye, beat the Bucks, and then they beat the Titans. And so that is this momentum that they've had after losing 3 in a row to the Jags, the Browns, and the Saints, and then running off 4. I'm with you. I think this is a tougher spot for the Steelers. I do like Indy in this game on Saturday. The night game, though, is to me the most intriguing game Saturday. Denver, Detroit. Detroit's wobbling right now, Baldy. Why?
Well, Chicago thoroughly outplayed them on both sides of the ball. They had no answer for Justin Fields, which is amazing to me. We know Justin – I mean, how far back do you go with Justin Fields?
High school, 11th grade, 10th grade?
They've been running the same read option play since 11th grade.
Sure.
He ran it in high school. He ran it at Ohio State. He's been running it in Chicago for 3 years. The Lions acted like they didn't know how to stop a read option. They're going to see it from Russell Wilson this week. And then what Chicago did defensively, I mean, Montez Sweat was everywhere.
That's a good pickup, by the way. That's a good pickup.
Well, I said it, and I've been saying it. It's not about sack numbers, although he had a sack and a half last week. Like when you're 6'6" and you're 260 and you've got 36-inch arms, you've got length, you've got speed, and oh, by the way, he plays as hard as anybody on the field. You're not going to find that guy in the second round of this draft. And that's what they gave up for him, Carl. He's a centerpiece. Like, he's an anchor. He destroyed the running game in places. Like, he was a factor. But overall, Jalen Johnson is playing at a Pro Bowl level. The inside linebackers, whether it's TJ Edwards, whether it's Edmonds, whether it's Sam, this defense is real. And I think that and so that's what they did at Detroit. They throttled. But Denver is doing the exact same thing, Carl. Denver's defense with Vance Joseph, I mean, they destroyed the Chargers. They sacked, Easton Stick and Justin Herbert 6 times. They intercepted them. They got him fumbled. Like, they're really good. Nobody's made more improvement. In fact, I don't know if anybody's improved more defensively since that Miami debacle for Denver. And then they just figured out who they are in offense, which is limited. But as long as they don't turn it over, Russell Wilson knows how to lead this team. I think this is a tough spot for Detroit. Like, I don't believe that the 8-2 record is who they are right now. I think when you say wobbly, I think they are real question marks right now. Just because they're playing at home on a Saturday night in a holiday season. We saw this on Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter. Yep. It's how you're executing.
Do you think Sean Payton, I mean, listen, they beat the Chargers 24-7, but I was like, this is the thing about Sean Payton, and just briefly, and going into this weekend and how to attack this Detroit defense. And Aiden O'Connell is special, guys. He's the baller up there. We know that. But the run game, Baldy, I mean, the balance that Sean has and the ability to say, hey, screw this, we're going to run it, right? And they ran it last week against the Chargers, and then you go, all right, we need to throw it a little bit more this week. He finds that balance that I think a lot of coaches struggle with. And here's the other thing Sean does. Baldy, he doesn't go away from shit that's working. No. If it's working, he continues to go with it.
No, I mean, they've been running these 3 backs right now: Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, and this rookie Jaleel McLaughlin at a Youngstown State in any sort of combination. And if somebody gets hot, they stay with them. If Samaje's the check down screen guy, he's on the field. If they feel like they need a big play pop from a young fresh leg rookie and Jaleel McLaughlin, they go to that. They've lined up the same 5 offensive linemen for pretty much the entire season right now. They got a lot of continuity there. They'll take their shots when it's there, but they're up 7-0, and the kid Jaquan McMillan got a sack, fumble, touchdown right before they have to go up 14-0. Like, Sean knew how to play with the lead, and he did what he had to do to really take the Chargers apart. It's really a masterful. We can't say it enough and emphasize it enough, and that's why all these coaching jobs are swirling right now. Yeah. Because coaching matters, and coaching is the difference in this business.
It is. Baldy, let's get to Sunday's games. I know you're at Houston, Houston at Tennessee. We're going to talk about it in just a second. I want to talk about Dallas at Buffalo and how big that game is, not only for Dak, because, again, if you've been beating up on the Sisters of the Poor and you feel like, hey, he's not, this is not real what we're seeing. Is it going to be real on the road in Buffalo, where Buffalo has got this momentum after beating the Chiefs? But I do like Dallas. I like Dallas's momentum. I like everything Dan Quinn is doing defensively. Listen, they're balling out, and they're one of the top teams in the NFC. I just don't know if they're going to be able to go to San Francisco and win, because that's what I think ultimately is going to happen, whether it's the Eagles or the Cowboys. Cowboys at Buffalo this weekend.
I like the Cowboys too. And look, I think Josh Allen will give a heroic effort to try and, whether they got to get into a track meet with Dallas and a scoring match, whatever they have to do, I think he'll give it everything he's got to do it. I just think Dallas is a better team. And look, Dak is playing phenomenal. The offensive line has protected him. He's got the tight end is another Dallas Cowboy, weapon, and Jake Ferguson. CD seems unstoppable at this point. I think the one thing that has really stood out to me is the Cowboys secondary. And if you go back to the Thursday night a couple games ago, Deron Bland really had a hard time with DK Metcalf. And so they switched. They put Stephon Gilmore on there. And anybody that knows Stephon Gilmore, like, this guy he's got a PhD in defense. He's just a really smart, crafty player. got the ball out of A.J. Brown's hands on a catch last week, forced a fumble. And then if you look at Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker, this group on the secondary, we want to talk about Micah and what Deron Bland is doing, and that's fine, and that's legit. But this whole secondary is really, really good, Carl. And I think that Josh Allen, if he's got to go to Diggs, I could see Gilmore locking Diggs up, and that being a really great matchup. I don't know if he can shut him down, but I know Gilmore doesn't fear him. I know he knows how to read routes and what he's doing. I think this is going to be tough, the Buffalo offense, to put up 30 points. And I think that's what you got to do to Dallas. You got to go in there thinking we got to score 30 because that's what Dallas is doing.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's talk about Philly at Seattle. All right, coming off that loss, now you got to go to the West Coast. And we know, this Seattle team, they didn't have Geno last week. I get all of that. But I just feel like, with all that's going on with Philadelphia, you got to get right. This is the Monday night game, by the way, guys. You got to get right. And I don't know if, Jalen is going to be healthy for the rest of the season, Baldy. It's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But he's got to play through this.
And he will. I mean, he's never going to mention any injuries or whatever else. It's just not who he is. He's been injured the last 2 seasons. Bad ankles last year, or shoulder last year, bad ankles the year before, all that stuff. I mean, he's a fighter. But I kind of look at this game. I saw Drew Lock play against San Francisco last week. He played very well. I don't know that Geno could have played better than Drew Lock. It just happened to be the 49ers. They got a fake punt, it just destroyed them last week. But DK is getting behind any defense right now.
Yeah.
And I think about this, Carl. I've been in Philadelphia and played in Seattle. Here's what I think about with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a long flight home from Seattle on a Monday night back to Philly. It's a fun ride home if you win the game. If you lose it, it's miserable, and you've lost 3 in a row. And I kind of think the Eagles, do they want to be on this 6-hour flight home, losing 3 in a row, and having to face the Philadelphia mob and the media and the fans? Because, they can win all these games, but they also are not a good football team right now. They just do too many bad things. Defensively, they're a mess on 3rd down. They give up way too many touchdowns. We're going to find out everything we need to find out about this Eagles team on this game. Either they're going to be a playoff contender or they're going to leak oil and limp into the playoffs, and who knows, maybe the Giants beat them down the stretch, and they're going to be a non-player. And I feel like the secondary right now, maybe the pass rush can influence it, but the secondary better man up against this team, because we know the one thing Seattle can put up, whoever's at quarterback, Jackson Smith-Njigba, DK Metcalf, and Lockett are viable. They can beat you. Those 3 can beat you. And, oh, by the way, Kenneth Walker showed up last week, and he's healthy.
Yeah.
I think this is a tough spot for the Eagles. I really do on Monday night.
Yeah, the Kenneth Walker thing is big. You're right, because that run game has been blah. And by the way, before we get to the Sunday night game, Baltimore, and talk about your game, and I want to get to Jets in Miami. This Tommy DeVito, how do you not love this story, Baldy? This story has got me feeling good right now.
I think he's got everybody feeling good in New York. It's just a feel-good story. And look, I mean, I heard, I texted one of the coaches with the Giants, and I go, what do you see in practice? And he just wrote back to me, and I thought it was so fitting, Carl. He just said, Linsanity. It's Jeremy Lin.
Okay.
We saw this, I don't know, 2010 in New York in basketball, and it was real. And Jeremy had a great career. It just wasn't all in New York. But for a while, it had New York. We all followed the NBA. It took over the NBA.
That's great. That's a great comparison.
And I texted back to Coach. I go, unbelievable comp. It's perfect. But the one thing they did last week is literally, the story is unreal. He still lives with his parents. They cook for him. His mom did not need to clean his uniform last week, Carl. It didn't get dirty. And Andrew Thomas and Justin Pugh and John Michael Schmitz, they did a great job of protecting him. And he made some great throws. He hit Wandale, on the final drive for the game-winning field goal. And then defensively, they really played well. And so this is fun. This is a real deal. I think they can go into New Orleans and win, because I haven't seen any steady, good quarterback play from the Saints this year. No. And I don't know what Derek Carr's situation is right now or Jameson Winston. I feel good about the Giants going in there, and they believe in this kid. The team believes in Tommy DeVito. And look, I don't know. I didn't watch him at Illinois, and I didn't watch him at Boston College. I didn't see him in college. And I saw him in preseason. One thing I know is he didn't get any reps in preseason. I watched practice up there in the summer. He wasn't getting any time. He's doing this sort of since he got a chance, against Dallas, and it's been impressive. I think this team feels pretty good about it right now.
Yeah, I like it. It's a fun NFL story. I tweeted out the other day that, in my opinion, and it's just about energy, he's better than Daniel Jones. And I know they paid Daniel Jones a lot of money, but these are the kind of situations. I don't know if he turns into Brock Purdy, but these are the kind of situations where if they went out or they go, win 3 of their next 4 or something crazy, Baldy, Giants organization's got to look at this. They got to look at it, So you were dead 4 weeks ago. You were dead. Nobody was thinking about the Giants.
No, but the hidden jewel in this game against Green Bay was the Packers defense has been playing excellent. And they ran for 209 yards, and Tommy DeVito, he ran for 71 yards. It wasn't just scrambles. A couple read options, like he pulled it down. Saquon had a good game outside of the one fumble. Like, they ran the ball better than they've run it since at any point this whole season. And
all right.
And look, I know New Orleans' defense is stout. They've had some injuries. It's a challenge, but I feel like this line, the offense line, it's taken 12 weeks, 13 weeks now. But they're playing at a very good level right now.
Baldy, I don't trust the Miami Dolphins, and here come the Jets. Do you trust them?
Carl, I was there Monday night. I did the game. I mean, Tennessee tried to put the game on a silver platter, like a nice holiday platter, seafood platter, right? Where you could have your clams and your oysters and your shrimps and scallops. You could have the whole thing. They gave it to them, and the Dolphins couldn't finish it. And if you look deeper inside this thing, they lost their starting center, Connor Williams. He was the one guy that started every game for them during this Mike McDaniel, and they had to move Eichenberg over from guard to center, and they're doing this, and they're down 4 linemen right now. And, by the way, when Tyreek isn't in the lineup, they don't look very good. Yeah. And look, the Jets, that defense was awesome last week against Houston. We've been bragging about the offense in Houston. I know they didn't have Tank Dell, but they literally wired up every receiver Houston had. Tyreek's a different animal. I get that. But I don't know how healthy Tyreek is going to be this whole season. He had a hip drop tackle. He was in and out of the lineup. For most of the second half, he was out, and this offense limped. I think I don't know if Zach Wilson can back up what he just did. But I think he's better after sitting out. Nothing to lose. He played very well. Best game I've seen him play ever last week. The Jets can win this game. They can go down there and win this game.
That's how I feel. You're Houston at Tennessee this weekend. That's your game. How impressed are you with Will Levis and what you saw, though?
I loved going to meet these guys, because we need good young quarterbacks. I had never met Will Levis. I went up, down pregame and talked to him. First of all, he looks like a block of granite.
Unbelievable.
Like you don't see many athletes that look like this. But that being said, people just, he's got a cannon. Well, sometimes you got to watch a guy throw a football, Carl, before you come away going, that's an NFL arm. The guy, they hit him, they sacked him, they chased him. He made throws to Nuke, to Tajay Spears. You look at this team, you go, Jalen Duncan, rookie left tackle. Peter Skronsky, rookie left guard. Tajay Spears in like switching time with the King, and then Levis. You go, it's all rookies. And I went and met Rand Carthon, the general manager. Like, they're just turning it over. But Vrabel is the constant. Like, he's a good coach.
He is.
And he knows how to handle these players. And I think that was a big confidence boost for this whole organization. They play without Jeffrey Simmons. They got rookies everywhere. They traded away, an all-pro safety. Like, they're turning it over, yet there's they've won 3 of 7 games with Will Levis as a starter. And I think this is a tough spot for Houston. I don't know if CJ's going. If he doesn't go, I think that Tennessee,
different deal.
I think Tennessee continues to roll here.
Different deal. Before we get out of here, Baltimore Ravens. They went in dramatic fashion last week, punt return, overtime. We will get into the Rams next week because the Rams are playing great right now. Mm-hmm. But Baltimore Jags Sunday night game. I feel like the Jags are in a desperate spot here for some reason.
Well, they are in a desperate spot, and look, Trevor Lawrence, I don't know how he came back from that ankle injury and played pretty well, although, the 3 interceptions, it wasn't a result of the ankle. It was the result of Baltimore's defense. But, when you look at of the
Rams
defense, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The one thing, Lamar is just an amazing athlete, and he's got the Zay Flowers. Like, this kid he catches the go-ahead touchdown, the 2-point conversion, and Lamar just trusts him. And, I remember people said, Steve Smith told me when he worked him out, he went up to Boston College, he looked at Zay Flowers, he goes, this kid can play anywhere on the field. I don't care if he's 5'10" or 5'9", this kid can play anywhere. And he can, because of his ability to stop, separate. His stop and start button is like any joystick, any human joystick out there. It's what he is. It's really fun. Lamar is playing great. Yes, they need a punt return by Tylan Wallace in overtime to win a game. But I believe in this Ravens team right now, and to continue and keep this thing on track.
Baldy, who's the MVP right now? We got 4 weeks left. Who is it? Is it Dak? Is it Purdy?
I think it's between Dak and Purdy right now. I'd probably say Dak. I mean, he's doing it in prime time. He's doing it against, just he did against Philadelphia. But Purdy is right on his tail. That he was again just sensational against Seattle.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be fun the next 4 weeks. Hey, Baldy, enjoy the game in Tennessee. Nashville's always a fun place to visit. One of my favorites.
I'll pay Broadway a visit here.
We'll talk to you guys next week. Enjoy the games, everybody. It is In the Huddle. Follow us on YouTube, In the Huddle Pod, and tell your friends and subscribe. Take care.
Thanks, Carl.